This week on Capitol Report, a new gubernatorial poll. Governor Lamont with a double-digit cushion over Bob Stefanowski.
Just one poll? Those things aren't scientific.
Yes, they are. All this is science.
Bob may be down, but he's far from out.
We're going to win this election, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to fix the state.
My old man is a television repairman. Got this ultimate set of tools. I can fix it.
So what does the governor think of the Stefanowski campaign so far?
He's not asserting important initiatives that will make a difference.
I'm a man who discovered the wheel and built the Eiffel Tower out of metal and brawn.
And Bob, your thoughts on Ned?
He gets in an election year, he realizes this race is tight, and all of a sudden he's Santa Claus.
Santa!
Yeah.
You're bringing my present early?
Yeah.
Plus, Stefanowski takes aim at First Lady Annie Lamont's personal finances.
The people of Connecticut deserve to see what her income looks like.
All he can do is attack me and attack my wife and badmouth the state of Connecticut.
Let him work it out! It's between the two of them!
Hats off to the campaign season. Capitol Report starts now. Welcome to Capitol Report. I am Tom Dutchick, and we are so glad you're spending part of your Sunday morning alongside the power panel, Mike Cerulli, bringing the demographics down on Capitol Report. The youngster, former head of college Democrats, now just a Democratic analyst, right?
I guess so.
All right, okay. And Johnny McKinney, keeping that demographics a little bit older here on Capitol Report. A lot older. Former minority leader, State House,
Great
State
to be
Senate.
back.
Here, Johnny. All right, guys, let's get into it. If there's one thing we love at the Capitol Report, it's polls, baby. And last week, News 8, The Hill, Emerson polling released the first post-convention numbers of 2022 race between Governor Ned Lamont and Republican nominee Bob Stefanowski. 2022 is a rematch of 2018. But is it shaping up to be a mismatch? Take a look. Right now, Governor Lamont has a 13-point lead on Stefanowski. In 2018, Lamont won the election by a 3-point margin. The big number to focus on here, 12% of those polled are still undecided on a candidate. Lamont is doing extremely well with women, urban voters, while riding a popularity wave of popularity for his handling of the pandemic. And take a look at this. Over 80% of those polled, 80% say they've made up their mind on who they're voting for. That leaves some wiggle room for voters to jump to either side. As for the poll, the Stefanowski campaign says, quote, while Ned Lamont is patting himself on the back for a job well done, people are struggling and he could have done more to help, but he didn't. Guys, in a few minutes, we're going to hear from Bob Stefanowski, but are you surprised by Ned Lamont's poll numbers, Michael?
No, I am not. I think the people of Connecticut, as indicated by their preferences there, are happy with the way the governor's handled the pandemic. They're happy with the way the governor is presenting a positive message as opposed to sort of throwing mud at the wall and seeing what sticks. And I think that that's exactly what they want to see at the polls in 2022 here.
Yeah, I mean, polls mean nothing really at this stage of the game.
Well, that'll do it for Capitol Report this week. Johnny McKinney.
Well, so look, we had a Sacred Heart poll that showed the governor up by 18 points. So has he lost 5 points in the last month? That's hard to believe. He's still polling at about 50%. If I'm a challenger and the incumbent's at only 50%, that's a good sign. 20% people said they'll change their mind. 12% said they don't have in a position yet. That adds up to 32. It's about a third of the voters. Look, this is still a long way to go till Election Day. We're going to have a lot more polls. Obviously, the only poll that matters is Election Day, and I think this race shapes up to be a 2 to 4 point race. It's going to be close, and I think it's still there for Bob Stefanowski to possibly win.
Well, that's a good segue, Johnny Mac. So it just so happens the day the poll came out, Bob Stefanowski headed to the steps of the state capitol to make himself available to the media. Bob used the opportunity to take a few swings at Governor Lamont and at the state of affairs in Connecticut. Stefanowski, citing a corruption problem, says he's happened on the governor's watch as the feds investigate the misuse of COVID funds in West Haven. Here's a little taste along with Governor Lamont's response. Watch this.
First of all, corruption, right? That's the biggest tax we have. And we have to start holding people accountable. The governor refuses to investigate it. If he would investigate it and get to the bottom of it and bring some real teeth in with an inspector general or have Attorney General Tong look at it, then we would know. It could be billions of dollars.
We've taken over the finances of West Haven. You know, that's as strong a reaction as you can. We have 169 towns. Each and every one of them is feisty in their independence. When we see something going wrong, we're the first ones to step up. When we had a deputy at OPM, he's gone right now. And we're holding people accountable and participating in facilitating any investigations.
Bob also took a swipe at Governor Lamont's wife, Annie, questioning the transparency behind her earnings as a venture capitalist and the fact that the Lamonts file separate tax returns. Governor snapped back on that one as well. Watch this.
When your wife has 2 clients with the state of Connecticut and gets a no-bid $26 million contract in Semaphore, a company that she owns part of, the people of Connecticut deserve to see what her income looks like. So somebody should ask the governor when he's going to release his wife's financial, because that has income coming from the state of Connecticut.
I'm surprised he keeps, going after my wife. I mean, he's been running down the state of Connecticut for 4 years, and now he's running against my wife in some ways. I've got a long track record. I've made decisions for 4 years. If you don't like some of the things I've done, feel free to address it. If you have a better idea, what are your better ideas? Stop critiquing the state. Come up with better ideas.
Johnny Mac, it's a very dangerous game of politics to start criticizing people's wives, and he kind of opened himself up to that one, I think.
Yeah, look, I spent 16 years saying that you should never go after people's families, whether it was Governor Malloy or Governor Rowland. You just got to kind of leave them away. I do think Semaphore is a legitimate issue, but it's an issue to bring up with respect to Governor Lamont. I do think the fact that Governor Lamont hasn't filed his full tax returns, only a summary of his tax returns, is a legitimate issue. But with respect to Annie Lamont, look, everybody who knows her knows she's one of the best venture capitalists in the country, if not the world. She's her own person. This is about Governor Lamont and his record and Bob Stefanowski, not their families.
Well, I think it's pretty clear the governor has disclosed his financial interests to the state. In the instances where there might be companies that Annie's invested in that have business with the state, there are ethical boundaries in place there to ensure that there's no conflicts of interest. And frankly, I think John's right. Annie's one of the best venture capitalists in the country, and we should be proud, not attacking, as Bob is doing, someone who's creating jobs here in Connecticut.
John, does this West Haven issue stick with the electorate, the whole corruption issue?
Well, it certainly does in West Haven, right? And I think the governor, I know he's always been reluctant to call on people to resign, but I think he's trying to have his cake and eat it too with this respect. He came out and he said, I'm not going to call on Nancy Rossi to resign, but I think West Haven needs a fresh start. Well, the only way West Haven gets a fresh start is not by a state takeover, because that's not going to last forever. It's by having new leadership. And the only person, if there is a person who can get Mayor Rossi to resign, is the governor. And I think he still needs to pick up the phone call privately and say, listen, you need to go, and you need to go now.
Mike, what do you think? Should Governor pick up the phone?
Well, I think he's being very clear in his messaging. He wants there to be new leadership there. He believes it's up to the people of West Haven to choose that new leadership. And frankly, these strong state controls on West Haven's finances are more than enough to send the message that it's probably time for a leadership change in that town.
Wrap it up, Johnny Mac.
Yeah, she's got to go. And if I were out there, I would be calling on the leading Democrats of this state, starting with the governor, Senator Blumenthal, Senator Murphy, every single day. You need to get her to step down. West Haven deserves better than Nancy Rossi.
All right, guys. So do you think we just stop at the governor's race? Nope. How about the U.S. Senate? If you think this will be another cakewalk for Dick Blumenthal, think again. Blumenthal is looking at a 10-point lead over Republican nominee and former House Minority Leader Themis Claridis. 10% of those polled are also undecided. The poll also showed Claridis doing better with unaffiliated voters. Leora Levy, one of the two conservative candidates on the primary ballot, trails Blumenthal by 16 points if she were the candidate, as does Peter Lamage, who is also part of this three-way primary challenge. Michael, should these poll numbers have Dick a little bit concerned? I know at this time in 2010, there's a 13-point spread, internal McMahon polls showed. So is this time to be a little concerned?
Well, it certainly shows I think Themis is a very impressive candidate. It's certainly better for the Republicans than the other options out there. But look, I mean, it's never a good idea to bet against Dick Blumenthal and the way that he's able to relentlessly campaign, relentlessly put the issues that matter to people of Connecticut up front. I think it's hard to bet against him in those cases.
Could it be incumbency fatigue, Johnny Mac?
Well, I think there could be. Senator Blumenthal's been in public office for almost 40 years. That's a long time. Look, I said it before. Polls come and go. We're going to get a lot more polls. I do think the benefit of this poll, especially to Themis Claridis, is she can use it to fundraise. She still has a primary. I wish she didn't. She is the best candidate for the Republicans. So if there is a benefit here to a poll, right, Mike, showing her within striking distance, she can go out to people in Connecticut, around the country, and say, I got a chance to win, but I need some money. We know Dick Blumenthal is well-financed. She's going to need to raise more money.
Okay, so voters were also questioned on two other important issues. The first having to do with age limits for politicians, with 60% favoring this idea, nearly 33% saying 70 should be the maximum age. And on abortion, there's overwhelming support. Only 9% say it should be illegal in all cases. However, voters are split about the situational aspect of when a woman should be allowed to have an abortion. Johnny Mac, we were talking about some of these issues before we rolled onto the set, and about term limits and age limits. What are your thoughts?
Well, I spent 16 years in the state senate. I knew it was time to go. I sort of term limited myself. I don't think people should be there forever, but some are. It's up to the voters. I think the polling is interesting with respect to maximum age limits. As someone who just turned 58, maybe I might change my position on that. What do you think, Mike?
Yeah, I think age limits are probably not the direction to go, but as a young person who has seen a lot of young people run for office, certainly term limits so we can get some of the, let's say, more experienced folks out and some younger folks with newer and perhaps better ideas in certain cases in office. I think that's certainly something to look at.
I do think we ought to have the conversation, though, right? When you talk about age limits, it shouldn't be how old you are. It should be how long you've been in office.
Right.
You could be 22 and run for office like a Will Haskell did. Like,
exactly.
Tom, you were in your 20s when you ran for office. Or you could be 70 and running for office for the first time. The issue is, how long have you been in office?
What surprised you about those abortion numbers?
Nothing really surprised me. I think what has surprised me is there's both sides have continued to go out to the extremes. So the Democratic position in Connecticut now, as espoused by Gillian Gilchrist, is there can be no restrictions on abortion. That's nationally opposed by 81% of the people. 70% of the people in the country support some parental notification. 37 states have some parental notification. It's an idea that I think is favored by a majority of even pro-choice people.
All right, guys. Before we go to break, I want to take a moment to say thank you to my News 8 and Capitol Report family, to my friends, political colleagues, past and present, and viewers who only know me from our 30 minutes together each Sunday. Your words and message of support have meant the world to my wife, Nora, and I as we navigate this difficult time for our family. Hosting Capitol Report, as you know, is a great joy to me. And if I taught my sons, Robert, in anything, is that being in the game is much better than sitting on the sidelines. So it's good to be with you again on Sunday mornings. And from the bottom of my heart, I thank you for helping honor their memory.